So last week we had an amazing episode, an amazing debate, and two amazing guests with PurpleHaze and Ecstasy. So shout out to you guys. And you guys brought in two different point of views about the Activision Blizzard case and what's going on with the FTC. And it was very exciting to watch and sit and just listen to you guys. For the most part, the Xbox International crew, we kind of acted like the judge. We just listen, ask a few questions on things that we weren't sure or that we wanted to know your guys' opinion. And this highlight took me like I cut it down to like 30 minutes, but I don't think this does it justice. So after watching this, if you want to listen to the full conversation, I recommend you go back to last week episode with Purple Haze and Ecstasy and listen to the whole debate. It's very interesting. You both bring great points. And I just love listening to different opinions and then making my own conclusion. So this upcoming week, we will provide our conclusion and what we think is going to be, uh, the final verdict of this case. And we also want to talk about something that has me personally a little bit worried about Xbox, and this came out of the whole Activision Blizzard case. So, anyways, this is the video. Hope you guys enjoy. If you like the content, please subscribe, hit the like button, share. We would truly, we truly appreciate the support you guys been showing. But anyway, here's the video. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those in attendance this evening, we have a very special match for you. In the first corner, a person who hates Lara Croft, the person who played a lot of Stadia, the person who played MK Tournament like Jade, the root beer goddess herself, PurpleHaze. And in the other corner, they call him Fake Insider. He loves Todd Howard, as you can see in his background, and Hideo Kojima. He loves soccer and baseball. He is also very good in shooters and competitive gaming. Ladies and gentlemen, Ecstasies!
And don't forget, he taught Anna Konikova to play tennis. Don't forget about that.
Play ball.
All right,
Well, so here we go. Can I say court session begins and slam my hammer? Or no?
Go ahead.
Court session begins in Crazy's court. Let's go.
All right. Well, anyway,
that was for $75. That was the weakest sounding hammer I've ever heard.
Oh man.
Yeah. So just a little background, like on the deal. So like if you look at mergers and acquisitions traditionally, the larger the merger, the less likely it's going to go through. This is just a historical way of looking at it. Once you start to add in certain companies, it even goes down even further. So once you start to look at like incumbents that are like, let's say in the top 10 of an industry, top 5, it's going to be scrutinized. And so I looked at that and I said, the deal has a high barrier to pass. And then I also looked at the fact that when the deal was initially announced, Activision Blizzard was a very distressed asset. And then up until January, it was no longer a distressed asset. It kind of all the baggage it had lost. So I said the deal was no longer worth $70 billion. Because of the size of the deal, like normally to get a deal through, it's 18 to 24 months. The larger that deal gets, it's very hard, just the logistics to get it done in that amount of time. So July 18th was always the date. And once I started to see kind of how the courts were stacking the dates and what Microsoft was doing on the background, what Activision was doing, like the actual actions, not words, but actual actions, it became apparent to me that Microsoft and or Activision, those parties were not willing to do, let's say, like what an AT&T and Time Warner were willing to do back in 2017 when they merged. And that deal took almost 24 to 36 months. So once I saw that was not there, I said, it's got to go. It has to be renegotiated. And the closer it gets to that date, and the less likely there's a renegotiation, knowing that you have pending trials, knowing that there's quite a bit of hurdles to go through. I said that it goes back to the same thing. It needed to be renegotiated. And unless you see a movement on that front, I thought it was going to fall through.
My opinion and my vibes with all the following case, it has been like a roller coaster because in the first steps of the deal, I was thinking like, okay, I work as a lawyer and I understand I'm not a lawyer with a specific knowledge of mergers and acquisitions, but I've been studying all the case to have the enough knowledge to talk to the people about this. So in the first steps, I was like, okay, this is legal. You don't have any theory of harm that you can say this is illegal because we talk about numbers, we talk about market shares, we talk about that, all that stuff, and in the papers, black over white, this is legal. But okay, I was talking since the beginning that I was very afraid about the new age of regulators. The new age of regulators are FTC and CMA because their analysis don't have based on the numbers, they base on qualitative theories. Think thoughts, opinions. We think that this is going to happen because this is a nascent market. We can't predict, but we think. So when you talk with numbers, the numbers don't lie. But if you talk with theories, everyone can have a theory. So I was always afraid about CMA. Why CMA and not FTC? FTC, I've always said, they don't have nothing to do because there is a legal difference very important between FTC and CMA. CMA can block acquisitions. FTC can't block acquisitions. The law in the United States don't allow block acquisitions by the FTC. The FTC just can recommend, just can go to make an injunction and the judge decides, not the FTC. The FTC evaluates and prepare their case. The CMA is different. The CMA can block and then you can appeal. And okay, I say, the merger is legal, the CMA has lost their mind. Okay, it's fine, but if I study the appeal process in UK, I find that, wow, the appeal process in the UK is very hard. It's very difficult. It's not like a standard a standard law process. It's not a standard review. You don't evaluate the merits of the case. The judge don't evaluate the merits of the case. Just evaluate the process. You have made a legal process or your process is illegal. Procedural law, just that. And that's why I don't like that system. And I think that you are this, how do you say this? You are like
Handcuffed.
cage. Yeah. Yep. You are like in a cage. So that's why I think that, okay, if you go by the legal way, I think that the deal is very, very difficult. But if Microsoft is going to the illegal way and they are not going to take account whatever UK says, this deal is happening right now. But if you have to wait the appeal process, what is going to happen with the appeal process and all that stuff, we don't know what happened because you have to extend, Bobby Kotick has to agree, and how many times? How many times the shares of Activision Blizzard King are going to be on a cage too? So that's why I'm worried about the UK. Don't worry about FTC. I've never been worried about China. I've never been worried about Europe because I trust in the process. But I don't trust in the process of UK, and that's why I hope that Microsoft is going to press the red button and leave the UK, say whatever you want, and let's do this. Because if you are going to follow the legal process of UK, that is a mystery, and it's a very hard mystery to Microsoft.
Yeah, so if you heard me, I never said the deal is going to be blocked. I said the deal is going to fall through.
Okay.
Right. That's a distinct difference. To actually block a deal, more deals don't fall through versus get blocked. Very few deals actually get blocked by regulators. I actually 100% believe it. And one of the reasons why, oh my gosh, calm down, little one. I have a dog barking in the back. But one of the reasons this is because just like right, we heard about the CMA and their appeals process, and Microsoft's got it like this inedible task to go through. Well, the same thing would happen in the U.S. court system. Even if the FTC were to not get the injunction, but they could probably still file for a temporary restraining order if they were to lose their preliminary injunction. And most likely, the judge at that point would still give them a temporary restraining order while they filed their appeal. But with that said, I actually think the FTC proved their case. They proved it they needed 2 days. They used 2 days, and they used the 2 days to prove it. Even though Microsoft asked for 4.5, I think the FTC proved it within 2. On top of that, one of the biggest things, and this isn't talked about as much, but it's very much the case, in international law, you generally have like alliances and agreements between certain countries, and they share common law. When we talk about the United States, and this is same for war, if you look at classified information, if you look at intelligence reports, if you look at just trade agreements, there's a certain group of countries that the United States pairs with. That's United States, Canada, the UK, New Zealand, Australia. They have their special designator. It's always those countries. And why is it always those countries? And it's because they share similar law. And so if we look at this deal from that lens, you see that those countries, because New Zealand just came out with the report, and most likely Australia will follow New Zealand because New Zealand has the stronger anti-competitive or antitrust laws. What you've seen is those countries have taken a very similar approach to this case. And when you look at the United States judicial, calm down, no one, I'm making my point. And so when you look at the United States, generally, when it comes to antitrust, United States goes by precedent. It very rarely is the one that's going to lead the lead. So right now, I feel like I think the FTC made their case for antitrust based upon or not even for antitrust, for a preliminary injunction based on what you need to do for a preliminary injunction.
May I ask you, when you say the FTC, proved their case, in what matter do you believe that they proved their case?
So they have to prove 3 things for a preliminary injunction, right? They have to prove market definition. They have to prove their evidence, but they have a case. It doesn't say that they have to prove anti-competitive nature. They have to prove that they have standing and they have a case, that their theories of harm make sense. And then they have to prove on the balance of equities. What that means is they have to prove that on its face value, allowing the injunction would hurt Microsoft less than if you don't allow the injunction, and how that hurts the FTC. Traditionally, regulatory bodies will win this, especially because the deal right now, Microsoft and Activision are 2 private entities. They could easily renegotiate, and this whole idea about we're running up against a timeline, we're doing so forth, that actually runs, the courts don't necessarily care about that. They're going to say, you created this timeline arbitrarily on your own. You can recreate the timeline. You can renegotiate the terms of the deal. You can recreate whatever. So when you look at the balance of equities, you look at the market definition, and then you look at what was presented, which was, if we think about what's been happening in Apple, what's happened at Google, what's happened at Facebook, when we see the language that was seen in the Microsoft documents, that is the exact same language that has gotten those other tech companies also in trouble from an anti-competitive nature.
Of course, I agree in the 3 points that you need to prove the preliminary injunction to obtain that preliminary injunction. But in my opinion, the FTC couldn't prove their market definition. But okay, it's easy that the Judge Carley can approve that market definition. I agree of that, of course. But I think that they don't make a good case to prove their market definitions, and we could see that. There is Nintendo, there is no Nintendo. Cloud is a separate market, is not a separate market because, okay, I'm an FTC liar. I have to defend that the cloud is a separate market, but NVIDIA says that cloud is not a separate market. My All my witnesses said that cloud is not a separate market. So I think that that's hard to prove, that you know that better than the market participants. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. In the second point, the FTC has to prove that they have a case and they have chances to win their case. In my opinion, and what I've been seeing these days, I can't agree that the FTC has a case. Sorry, this is not for bias. This is not about for nothing. I just thinking that they don't know where are they going. Any regulators are all around the world agree that the console market is not harmed with this acquisition. Nobody. The CMA, we don't have reference before that they eliminate a theory of harm, and they remove that. And never before happened that. They removed. Why? Why they did that? Of course, I agree that the CMA wanted to block this, but they want to eliminate the ways of an appeal. That's why they said, okay, if we use this theory of the console, we are not going anyway, and we could give. What I have been saying that the CMA removed that theory because they wanted to don't give ammunition to Microsoft for the appeal process, because I think that they wanted to block. But in my opinion, making I don't know how to say, a símil, haciendo un símil, haciendo un símil. ¿Cómo se dice, Luis? Como haciendo un símil, haciendo una metáfora.
Metáfora. Metaphor.
Making a metaphor is like, okay, the CMA, they use a sniper. They just use one bullet to shoot the unique theory of harm that can be proved, because, okay, the CMA is making theories, is speculating about the cloud, but if you want to take down that speculation of cloud, they are going to say to you, okay, you are turning down my speculation, making another speculation. But in the theory of consoles, in the market of consoles, the numbers are not with you.
Once again, there's 3 theories of harm. You don't have to. All they have to do is prove one of the theories of harm,
Okay.
right? So
and then
okay,
they could have a theory of harm, but we have 2 points more.
right. So then we took at, and so you said the harm to consumers. It's a harm to the market participants, not consumers. When we look at the preliminary injunction, when we look at the anti-competitive nature, we also look at consumers. But
which is the harm that the FTC proved today to the competitors, to the competition?
Here's the thing: if you let the merging parties go through, the FTC now has to work to do a breakup if the deal is found to be anti-competitive. That is a much harder burden than for the 2 companies willing to merge or to buy, whatever they're doing, to just renegotiate. That is a standard the companies can control. So that's how the court would look at that.
But that's the trap that the regulators are playing right now. They don't have the laws. They don't have nothing. Just give us time, give us time, give us time, and give us time. And of course, time with these big enterprises is money, and we are losing money because we want time. We want time. Why? And I'm sorry, sorry for my vocabulary, because I have to say that. But why the fuck they make this preliminary injunction, this motion right now? Not in December, not on November, not in January, not in February, because we play with that time. We want to fuck you. We don't care about nothing.
So let's talk about, what do you need to get a preliminary injunction, right? You need to have evidence that the parties are going to potentially buy. Now, here's the thing. You asked about this earlier, Sourblow. You asked about, do we think they were bluffing? In the preliminary filings for this thing, the FTC proves their point to say, like, this is why we need to do this right now. Because Microsoft was saying, if we do not if we cannot have a case by the 18th, we will close the case, or we will go ahead
They
and
didn't say that. They didn't say
They-
that.
they did
That
say-
was about the press. No, they didn't say that.
no, the in Microsoft in their filing, in Microsoft's filing, in asking the judge to expedite the court case, they did
With
say
the
that.
gamers, but you are talking about the gamers lawsuit. Or first one, economist. I think that she did a good performance, a good presentation. The second one was a shame, but not just for the economist way, too for the FTC lawyer. The FTC lawyers both was talking talking from an European lawyer. That was a shame for every court. A shame. That performance were a shame. They were talking to make all these days. That was only about the gotchas.
That's all they're going to do on the. But like I said, I think they cancel out each other. My biggest thing is the most damning pieces of evidence still come from when you look at antitrust, you look at monopolies, you look at big tech. Anytime you start to see language that says we are trying to crush, or not crush, but beat out a competitor, we want to take out a competitor, we don't want someone to compete. Every single time we've seen that over the last decade, it has resulted in major anti-competitive litigation. But you continue to talk. I want to bring up something else you brought up, though. You talked about the European Union as if the European Union did not find that this deal was anti-competitive. I will remind the European Union found this deal anti-competitive. They just found that the
Yeah, but they are constructive. They are not like we are because of our ideology. We are better than you.
But you now realize but you now realize
I am constructive. I want to promote the competition.
So,
I
but
want to
you
promote the
understand.
innovation.
Yeah, but you understand what was the thing you just said. What we said that they need to do for a preliminary injunction is identify a theory of harm. And so once again, what Microsoft has made this is an indictment on the anti-competitive natures. And if you say you do a preliminary injunction, you're killing the deal. That's actually not what the preliminary injunction's for. It's in Microsoft's own words, right? If you look at it, and NVIDIA said it as well, Stadia said it as well. In whether it's an early market for console, whether it's the early market for cloud, whether it's the early market for VR, whatever, content is extremely important for a market, for any new entrant into that market to have any advantage, to have any chance of winning. So Microsoft said it. Microsoft said, there's only two companies that can compete against us in content: PlayStation and Nintendo. The only two that can compete against us in content. However, neither of those companies have their own cloud. Microsoft's the only one with their own cloud. And on top of that, if we look at Friday, what the Stadia person said, and NVIDIA proved it as well today, is actually to run a cloud service is very expensive. You either need to have your own operating system, or you have to you have to have an operating system license out to you. When it comes to cloud,
but we have to make the clear. We have to clarify that NVIDIA agrees this transaction and is in favor of this.
So, but why did NVIDIA agree to the transaction though?
Oh, guys,
because we have an agreement and we have a constructive way to not harm our competition.
You didn't
and
prove
Unicorn,
that
with
no,
Liz Bailey.
they asked the economist today straight up. They asked the economist.
She has a market analysis that
Yes.
she proved that Steam grew without Call of Duty. Started to grow without Call of Duty. Nintendo started to grow without Call of Duty.
Yes,
so
but
I can't understand who is Microsoft harming.
No, it's not just Call of Duty though. And that's what the entire analysis today was with the economists. They said, how can you prove what a unicorn is when you didn't look at anybody but Sony? Right? Then the second economist, when they brought him up, they said, hey, have you looked at what is NVIDIA, what is going on in the market? And the economist kept saying, no, I did not look at that. I did not look at that. I did not look at that. That was like literally one of the last pieces of testimony that was presented. And so I don't think any economist had a good day in court at all. Like, to me, I think I continue to say that they have proven enough to continue this to go on.
Examples?
I continue to tell you the example in the cloud market on innovation. I don't know how many more times I can say. It's this exact
A
same
market
argument.
that is less than 1% of the
It doesn't
entire market of
matter.
trading.
It
Okay.
doesn't okay. They've all said the same thing. New Zealand, Australia,
So-
EU, and CMA have all said the same thing,
But
that there's
why
harm in this
now
market.
the other regulators are important? And no are important the regulators that approve or the regulators that have agreements?
Because I can tell you,
Constructive way.
because those are.
I try to think in the constructive way, not in a destructive way. The FTC just try destruction.
I don't know. All I can tell you is, like, when you look at the international law, there's a group of countries that has the foundations of their laws that are similar. Those groups of countries are coming or have come to the same conclusion on this deal. When you look at the other regulators, I cannot tell you. I do not know Brazil's regulation system. But what I do know is that when it comes to international law, Brazil is not one of those countries that we look at to say, like, yes, let's share this law, right?
And
The
Europe?
same with South. I already told you, European Union has already found a theory of harm in the deal. The difference is that they
But
took
we
a
try to offer remedies to.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the other thing when y'all talk about what Microsoft has done. One of the
And
things
the
that
FTC never took the
one of
phone
the
to
things
Microsoft to try
let me
to
take this.
agree some
One of the
remedies.
things is y'all continue to take Microsoft's speaking points as gospel. All right, one of the closest. No, hold on. Hold on. Let me come back.
Purple
Okay.
spit.
What happened?
Louis, hit the hammer.
What happened in January?
Just kidding.
January 5th. January 5th, right?
Yeah.
January 5th,
Yeah.
there was a hearing between Microsoft and the FTC in which they said, hey, let's talk about, because that was when the lawsuit was first filed. At that time, both parties said, we are not talking to each other right now. That was back in January.
But that meeting just was for the case management.
I am saying, I hear what y'all are saying. Like, trust me, I hear what you're saying. What I am saying, though, is that if you look at what has been laid out and what Microsoft has as far as a vertical, right? There's three main components that you need to cloud gaming. You need servers. You need a content library of some sort, whether you import it or you need your organic content library. And then you need a way to do cloud gaming, right? Which, right, is all it is a virtual PC. It's nothing special, right? So it's either a Linux virtual machine in the cloud or it's a Windows virtual. That's how we've seen it. So what the regulators are saying, the CMA has said, what the EU also found, what New Zealand is looking at, what the FTC has also put out there is that Microsoft has already a content library that is only rivaled by two players.
I think that they could have been talking more about other things, like, for example, the cloud gaming and all the mention that they have been doing about cloud gaming, and not talking about, can you promise about Call of Duty and all the games? And they look so childish. And of course, in a judge, I think that the forms are important and they lose the forms a lot of times. So, of course, I try to understand all the points, but I don't see relevant evidences that we could have a case or something like that. Of course, if we have that arguments, Meta within could the FTC could acknowledge that preliminary injunction. They didn't acknowledge, so I don't understand why here they are acknowledging the preliminary injunction and with Meta within no, because Meta within was a market leader in the VR space.
They lost.
And Microsoft is not a market leader in any market that they
lost the preliminary injunction against Meta within. They did.
Yeah, that's why. That's what I'm saying.
But
I can't know why with Meta within no and here yes.
With Meta within, the main reason they lost, they took a very central theory. They took a very novel approach. And what they said is basically Meta had the option to build a VR app, right? They could build it. Instead, they went out and bought it. The judge took them on definition, but said at the end of the day, Meta didn't have the ability to build a Peloton. He literally says that. He says they don't have the ability to build a Peloton, they don't have the ability to have a Nike gym. So they either have several different options. They can either buy it, they can either go partner with someone, or they can try to build it organically. And the judge said they're all somewhat similar in like cost structure and so forth. And so that's why he said like you don't have a case here, FTC. This case, the FTC took a different take on it, and again, the FTC here, it's not about how extreme the anti-competitive practice is. It's not about should you be able to block it? Like the FTC has made it very clear. This is about the preliminary injunction and what it needs to get the preliminary injunction. It's just precedent. Like, I think if you ask me what's going to happen in this case, to be very honest, I think that the judge is going to say there's no harm in console. I'm going to say that they didn't win a market definition for subscription services, but I'm going to say she's going to probably say something around cloud that
you win the
something-
definition in the cloud market, but which is the harm in the cloud market? Okay, we have a cloud market, but which
because
is
they
the
could
harm?
form a monopoly. They can form a monopoly in the cloud market.
I can't form a monopoly if I share my content with all my competitors.
Because your competitors, okay, under the cloud market. Go ahead.
Can I jump in and say something? What she's trying to say is that, for example, since Microsoft has so much, for example, in Windows, right, and they provide their content through Windows, through this, through that, to the other people, they can actually form a monopoly inside of that platform, and basically leave everybody out.
But we are having a mistake on that, because if we try to prove the separate market of cloud gaming, arguing that in Europe they know it, in Europe they don't have worries about the harm using the ecosystem of Windows, the pack. They are just saying that cloud gaming market is a different market, but they don't talk about the power of Windows and other stuff to have that advantage.
Yeah,
Because that was a preliminary theory of harm that the European Union had in the first phase, and then they removed that.
Well, no, the CMA used that exact same theory, right? The CMA used that theory, but the EU,
The
when
CMA
you
has seen that they didn't use the combo Windows Azure,
for the cloud, when they said for the cloud theory of harm, that is, I just literally
but
told you
they
what
don't
this.
talk about the power of the infrastructure. They talk about the power of the content. So
No, they talked about it in three phases. Go look at the actual judgment.